It's the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Here's your host, Matthew Ablan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 23 of the Queen City Music Podcast. This month, I am happy to have with me two-thirds of the group Jamundo. If you are unfamiliar with the group, Jamundo are an eclectic acoustic electric jam band whose influences include world music, folk, funk, ambient, and surf music. This trio features Zeno Skarouche, who can be found floating between oud, guitar, and violin, percussionist Roni Taylor, who is just at home on a cajon or djembe as he is on our darbuka, and easily identifiable on double neck bass is Roey Haviv, who rounds out the trio. All right, fellas, thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's start with the first question. Are you fellas originally from the Charlotte area? Zeno?
No, I'm originally from the Hudson Valley region of New York. It's about 50 miles north of New York City.
And what brought you down to Charlotte?
I got tired of the winters there. And it's a beautiful, beautiful country. I would have stayed there forever, but it was just too cold.
Okay. Roni, how about you?
I'm from Haifa, Israel.
Oh,
And what brought me down here is meeting my wife in New York. She's from New York.
okay. And you guys, how long have you been here for? Roni, about how long?
I've been almost 20 years in Charlotte and another 4 in New York.
Wow. Okay. And
I've
Zeno?
been here about 20 years.
Okay. Wow. Fantastic. A lot of changes since you guys got here.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Charlotte changed a lot since.
And it's growing every day.
Yes.
Every piece of land will put something on. All right. So, Zeno, what's your musical background?
I started playing guitar at 11, like pretty much everybody else. But I was always interested in lots of other instruments. So
Okay.
I took up mandolin and piano a little while later. Played in some bluegrass bands and whatnot. And then the New York Renaissance Festival opened up, and it was about maybe 5 miles from the house I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and got a job there. I was playing in the belly dance band. And at one point, the hawker for the band was an Armenian guy, and he had an oud, which
right.
I had not seen before. And he showed me how it was tuned and let me fool around with it. And I started doing that in the show and fell in love with that instrument and ended up getting one. And then the violin, which is the other instrument that I play in this band currently, I had a reputation in that area as being the guy you could give any instrument to and he'd figure out how to play it.
Right.
So somebody found a violin in the attic and gave it to me. And I did figure out how to play it, but I figured out how to play it all wrong. And I was playing in a band at a gig, and this guy named Larry Packer, who was a studio musician, played with a lot of famous people,
Okay.
showed up with his violin. And I said, oh, that's what it's supposed to sound like. So I just gave up. I put it in the closet, and many years passed.
Right.
And then I met someone who was working in the local orchestra. And I thought, if I'm going to do violin, I'm going to study classical violin so I can get all the basic techniques and
Okay.
not get in my way. So I took lessons for about 4 years just doing classical
Wow.
stuff,
Wow.
even though I wasn't ever going to be a classical musician. But
It's good
you get the
training. It's good
technique,
background.
yes.
I studied classical guitar in college and graduate school. And although I was a rock player and I intended on becoming a classical guitar player, but when I saw what real friends of mine were able to accomplish, I just didn't have the time into it. But my point is, it really frees up your hands. Like
yeah.
you really learn proper technique and how your hands
Once you
move,
get
and it's
that
amazing.
technique.
It really helps. Roni, how about you?
I started relatively late. When I was young, I started piano for about 6 months, but the teacher used to hit me on the hand when I played the wrong notes.
Must have been a classical teacher.
I think I decided to go into percussion because of that.
I'm going to do the hitting.
The percussion teacher is not hitting the kids, you know. But later on, I actually joined in Jaffa in Israel.
Okay.
I joined the Jewish Arabic Center that they promote, you know, doing things together between the cultures and everything. And that's where I basically started to learn the tarbuka, which is the hand drum that belly dancing take place, you know, with the... And I just did that and did a lot, took some lessons with some good percussionists in Israel and enjoyed that. And then years later, just found the cajon, which is a drum box, which I'm basically fell in love with and became my main instrument. And I play also something called udu, which is like a ceramic. Originally, it's a Nigerian ceramic pot with a hole in it, and you basically you need to amplify it in order to really hear it.
Right.
But that's about it.
Do you do drum set or just all hand drums?
I never touched the drum set. My father used to be a drum set player,
right.
but I always did hand drums and was just like to do it with the hands and no sticks. So,
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what, or how, better question, how did you guys wind up meeting?
Well, I was I was doing the Renaissance Festival in New York, and when I moved down here, I started doing the Carolina Renaissance Festival. Yeah. And I got into the belly dance band again, and the band, call it a band, was myself and a percussionist, and we started doing gigs outside of the fair, and we're playing one night, and this guy comes up, and I can't remember if you knew somebody or you just wandered up, but Ronnie came up and played a song or two, and I really liked it. It was he's very comfortable to play with.
I'll tell you what, just watching him, when I saw you guys, I'll get to later, but I don't know how he moves his fingers like that on a drum. It's amazing.
If it wasn't a podcast, you could see that I'm blushing.
So at sometime after that, when I left the Renaissance Festival, and again, I don't know how we met the second time, but we started talking about doing a duet.
Okay.
And that was the first Jamundo. And I played like 6 or 7 instruments in that one.
That was around 2003, 2004. We issued one CD and played a little bit gigs around, and, you know, got it going. It was more Mediterranean version of
More
what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Did you guys do any vocals on that, or was it just purely instrumental?
We did vocals too.
Few vocals,
Wow.
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, Jamundo is not that anymore.
No. After that, we went our separate ways, and Roni went on to become like the go-to guy for percussion in the area.
Oh, okay.
If you're an acoustic player and you want some percussion, and I started the second version of Jamundo with another percussionist and a bass player.
Wow.
And that lasted a couple of years. And then I started the Grateful Dead band after that. And then when that ended and I wasn't doing anything, you know, Ronnie and I had kept in touch the whole time. And he said, well, let's get Jamundo back together again.
Okay.
And I said, I'm willing to do it, but not as a duo. I don't want to do it as a duo because once you start soloing, it sounds very empty.
You need something else.
Yes. So we were looking for a bass player, and I wanted to get into more electronics because I was very much into that. We didn't do any of that in the first version.
Right.
Roni wanted to get into more funk, and we wanted to keep doing the traditional stuff. So we put out an ad. A couple people answered, and we looked at them and said, nah. And then
Pretty
Rui
quickly, Roy Chaviv, which is our bass player, he just right away contact and say, hey, I would love to try it. And he's another Israeli guy, by the way, that I met briefly 5 years before, but then wasn't in contact with. And since then, it's been almost 2 years that we've been practicing almost every week and performing here and there and working on getting to some festivals.
So 3 years as a trio, or 2 years as a trio, excuse me.
About 2 years, I would say. Maybe a bit more.
Who keeps track of time?
We're not sure.
So what brings the Middle Eastern flavor into it? Because when I just got to see you guys, and I went to see you several months ago, you were playing at the Evening Muse as the trio, Jamundo. And I was really curious just because Zeno was playing an oud, and I go into it. I'm fascinated with the instrument. And I had
Beautiful
checked out some
instrument.
videos from you guys online, and I was like, I got to check these guys out and see what they're all about. And I was just so taken with the direction that you guys were doing. It was a jam band, but it's got this world music flavor from it. It's not the Allman Brothers. Let's put it
Yes.
that way.
Right.
And when I saw you guys, it was all instrumental. So how did you get into this Middle Eastern world music type fusion that you guys do?
Well,
First of all, we have two guys from the Middle East.
Right.
yes. So that was easy. So
That's the natural.
So first of all, it all depends what we're doing. We never plan it ahead. And
Right.
that's why I think we're coming from the jam band idea. So we're sitting, we're jamming, and we happen to jam pretty well together. Dennis and I always just, he grab whatever he's grabbing out of the 20,000 instrument he's playing on, and I would sit on my cajon or tarbuka, and we just keep going and listening to each other and let it flow. Almost like painting a painting, and you don't know what's going to come up, and you just let yourself get out there. And,
Right.
So we're starting from the jam band idea, and then, I'm playing tarbuka. It's already giving a Mediterranean flavor. Or
Okay.
even on the cajon, I'm mixing traditional, Americana, but sometimes do some kind of Mediterranean rhythms. So that's already dragging it there. Roy on the bass, he's playing double neck
Yeah.
bass. Is
You know who he is just basically looking at his bass. Oh, that's Roey's playing.
is one of the top bass players in Charlotte, I must say. Is amazing and really. So anyway, so he's Israeli, so he's got it in him, So we can do something and still have some kind of a flavor, Mediterranean flavor to it,
Right.
but not always. I must say, we pride ourselves on actually going in all directions. We have songs that are more gypsy songs. We have funk songs, completely, fusion jazz.
A little bit of surf music.
surf music.
Yeah. So as a trio, are you guys doing any songs with vocals?
Yes, we are. We're not doing any originals with vocals right now, although we do have songs written with vocals. We just haven't gotten around to it yet. When we play out live, we like to throw in a couple songs that people might recognize.
Okay.
So we do some reggae and stuff like that. And Roni sings one song in Hebrew.
By Ehud Banai. He's an Israeli artist. He likes to combine rock with the Mediterranean flavor.
Okay.
So he's a nice inspiration, and just doing a couple of vocal songs by him. And what else we have? Zeno.
I like to do a very long jammy version of Who Do You Love?
Okay.
That's a great
Which it's always been a favorite of mine, and every time I hear a version of it, I almost always hate it because they make it too rocked up and too fast. And if you listen to the lyrics, it's a very spooky song. So I try to bring that into it.
All right. Very cool. All right. So you guys blend all these styles together. When I came to see you guys in the Evening Muse several months ago, I was amazed at how much stuff you guys had on stage. There were just wires everywhere. There was an oud, there was a guitar, there was a violin, there was several drums, hand drums, the cajon. I think Roey, who's not here, he had two basses. I mean, you guys just had a whole bunch of stuff. Is that your normal setup for a show? Like all that equipment?
At this point, yes. In earlier versions of the band, I used to bring a lot more stuff.
Wow.
Used to bring Trango and melodica and just all kinds of weird stuff.
Wow.
And I want to bring some more stuff in, but it's just a question of how much you want to set up and tune and
Right.
all that. You got worn out just looking at all that stuff.
I did. I was like, oh my God, how long did it take you guys to set? It must took you guys a couple of hours just to come in and get all the connections done.
It takes almost 40 minutes just to set up for the practice.
Well, you got it. It looks like you're the guy who's got it the easiest. You just bring a hand drums.
I come later with my two hand drums and the cajon. But But I used to be also. I was just talking to somebody about it, and it's just funny because I used to have one tarbuka with me, and that's it. And then I found the cajon, so I have the cajon. And I have a very nice Greek tarbuka that I got a year and a half ago.
Right.
So I got that, and then I bring hand sonic sometimes that belong to Zeno actually, and use it as a pedal and some sound effect. And so. You know how it is. You start from, and then Roy comes with 6,000 pedals, and so
I know.
We need a big stage.
I know the situation because in my duo, the Matt and John acoustic duo, I started with one guitar and went direct, and my friend John, he started with just a djembe. So we had our vocals and our instruments, and that was it. And then it's turned into me bringing two guitars, a pedal board, him bringing his djembe, and this whole thing he calls the djembe-saurus, where he set it up, and he's got his bongos, he's got his hand drums, he's got his wind chime, and literally, you need to be there at least for us an hour beforehand to set it up. But you guys are there the day before setting up.
and I have to say, not to sound. I still appreciate the fact I don't have to set up a drum set. So with everything saying, it's like...
It does take a little bit to get that going.
Yeah, I see those guys coming with like 8 drums and, that's my small kit. I'm like, okay.
You're like, here I go. Here's my small kit. Just one drum. Man. All right, so have you guys put out any recordings quite yet? Because I've noticed, I'm looking on Facebook, you do some live streams, which is really fun. I've watched some of the stuff that you guys do live. What's the situation for recording with Jamundo? What are you guys doing?
We did do one CD way back when it was just a duo, just the two of us. And we're forever talking about doing an EP.
Right.
We rehearse in a studio, so we've got tons of stuff recorded. It's just a question of getting our act together to put it on an EP or a CD or something.
So you've got a ton of stuff, but it's just...
Coming soon.
It's a ton of stuff to go through.
Bringing it down and saying, these are the songs we're going to do, how we're going to put that on a recording.
We're going to mix them, and
we're
going to do any overdubs.
So what's the process like for writing for you guys? Is it you, Zeno, coming up with material first and saying this is the riff, as it were, that we're going to be working with?
Basically, it falls into 3 categories: songs that someone has written and brings into the band.
Okay,
we've got a couple of those. Songs that are just jams.
Right.
We'll just jam, and then we'll try and pull pieces out of that. And then the other is songs where we're actually writing, and it's usually, again, one person has a little riff, and then we'll play around with that, and we'll think about what goes with that.
Okay.
It's a fun process.
All right.
We are starting every practice with a jam, just a warm-up jam, and some of those pieces actually led to a real songs after. So, in fact, we're thinking about doing live stream every time, almost for the beginning of the practice, just to do it.
Well, when you guys are doing it, are you recording every jam session? Because I'd imagine if you're not recording it, being a jam band, you're going to lose a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Be like, what did I do 10 minutes ago in that I can't remember that?
Exactly.
We record everything, which is one of the problems, because then you have so much stuff to go through.
Right, you're always thinking.
Figure out.
But then if you don't record or something went wrong and suddenly it didn't record and we had such a great jam after 15
we have
minutes
lots
of jam,
too.
we go back like, okay, I hope you recorded. It's like,
yeah. Well, I know when I'm playing with my friend John and we're jamming, I'll do something and I'll just play it and I don't even know what I'm playing. I just do something and I go into something else. What was that? And I'm like, what was what? And he's like, that. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know what I did a couple of minutes ago. I just, you do something and you don't think about it. It just happens naturally. All right. So you guys brought along a couple of tracks with you today.
Yes.
All right. So can you tell me about the guitar? There's 2 tracks. One's an oud track with an oud jam, and one is a guitar track. Can you tell me about the guitar track? We'll listen to that first.
The guitar track is from one of our live streams.
Okay.
So it's basically just live, and again, it's a free improv.
Okay.
We don't talk about anything. We might call out a key before we start, but other than that, it's
just whatever comes right out.
Whatever comes out.
Let's take a listen to it.
Okay.
So that's some pretty neat stuff. What's the live streaming like for you guys? What's the process? How do you with technology involved?
Well, Roey owns a studio,
Okay.
Brindle Studios, and that's where we rehearse. So he's got all the stuff there. And we set up some cameras and send all the sound through the main board.
Mm-hmm.
So we could technically mix multi-tracking, but
Right.
it's usually just a straight stereo feed, and that's it. Then whatever happens, happens.
So do you guys, are people able to go back on your Facebook page and look at the streams, or is it just straight up live and you can't go back at all?
No, you can look at it now.
Fantastic.
And if you go to the live stream, the one issue is that it was recorded with the front camera on a phone, so we're all backwards. I've pulled it apart, and I'm taking the pieces and flipping the video, so we're all right-handed.
Neat. All right, well, let's take a listen to this oud track, because this is kind of got me going with you guys. So listen to the oud. Let's take a listen to that. All right, that's an awesome track as well. Can you tell me a bit about this oud track? What's this about? Is this another live stream?
It's a live.
It's a live. I don't know what that is. That like
recorded,
a Kiss thing, where they recorded it live and then went in the studio and edited?
it was recorded live at a concert series at Teleguitar,
Okay,
which is owned by our friend Ari Latella.
where they located?
Newell, North Carolina.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know it's a separate town because it's right by University City.
Oh, really?
So you would think you're still in Charlotte, but it's technically a separate town. He does a concert series, and he's also a great musician, and he's very much into improvisation, just like us. So when you go play there for this series, the one rule is you can't do any songs.
So all jamming.
Yes. So we said, all right, we think we can handle that.
That's our venue.
So again, this is I don't think we might have mentioned the key, but I believe Roni started off, and we just followed, and that's what happened.
Roni, when you're playing some of the more exotic drums, do you have to play in certain keys for them? Can you tune them or anything like a traditional drum set? You know, they got to tune it to get.
No, actually, there's no tuning, not on the cajon and not on the tarbuka. Some of the Egyptian tarbuka I have, it's the head is plastic, so it doesn't get affected by the weather. But the one I'm using normally now, my baby tarbuka.
Okay.
That's the one I got from Greece, and I actually have a good story about it, how it got broken, and I put the pieces back together. But I don't have to tune it. Sometimes it's affected by the weather, so you can warm it up very lightly with like a warm pad. It's really well built, so far I didn't have to do anything. I have it for like a year and a half now. And we went to a gig in a restaurant somewhere, and it's a Greek restaurant. They're Greek. The food is more Italian, but the original owners are kind of Greek, so it was the whole Greek thing, and we were joking around. And Roy was talking about breaking a glass, like a traditional, just break a glass before for good luck. And sure enough, I laid down my tarbuka on a inside the case, and somehow, I don't know if it was the weather where it was cold outside and warm inside, and I just heard this noise, and I knew, and it was in like 3-4 pieces. So
Wow.
Yeah, I got in touch with the guy. He's a kind of a master of building tarbukas in Greece, and everything through Skype, and he guided me through gluing it together and what material with epoxy and sanding. And
what's it made of that it would
ceramic,
shatter, I guess?
Ceramic.
Oh.
It's a handmade ceramic. It's not a factory mold or anything. He basically built them,
Wow.
it's like a pottery.
Oh my
and then he glazed it from the outside. Yeah, it's a beautiful instrument, and I love the way it sounds, and it's got a mule leather skin on it as opposed to fish skin. So it's called the hola, which is basically a bigger tarbuka, so it's got a nice bass to it. And I like that because it feels good with the other instrument to fill in, because you have like a really nice bass. But I am working on getting another one with fish skin as well.
I alluded to it earlier, but is that the instrument that when I watch the videos you're playing? It's almost under your arm, and you're using your fingers a lot.
It's
on
fingers. It's all fingers. Yeah. The idea is to use as much as you can your 10 finger, which usually people don't. There's few percussionists in Israel that can do it, and of course in Egypt and places like this. But usually it's played on one hand, almost all the fingers other than the thumb.
Right.
And then the other hand is a lot of the bass and a little bit fingers. But the more you use finger, the more bell sound there is to it. And
in that sense, are you like a string player like Zeno and myself, where you've got to warm up a little bit, get those fingers, moving before you start playing?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
It's not just the motion of the palm; it's the fingers involved in that.
Fingers involved, yeah.
You got to strike them a little hard, strike the skin a little bit harder.
I don't think about it. I just sit down and torturing my family at home, just going up and practicing every day, and just keep it going and enjoying it. And I believe if you enjoy something, it just comes out. You want to do it, so you're actually practicing. But don't take it as a chore.
So I'm going to change gears with you guys. What's the Charlotte music scene like for you guys? I'm talking to a lot of folks who do original music in Charlotte. What's that like for you guys? Zeno?
Right now, we're kind of outsiders. We're trying to find the right places to play and the right people to hear us. You heard us, so
yes,
that's a start. When we first started years and years ago, the first version of this band, we were part of the belly dance scene. It was really big back then. So we had a built-in audience, and people bought the CDs and everything. Now we're doing something that's a lot more experimental, and there's not a built-in audience for it.
Right. Well, you guys were at the New Music Festival that happened in Charlotte.
Yes. And again, that's what they said, either jazz, classical, or experimental.
Right.
So experimental.
That fit you guys perfectly.
Yeah.
Ronnie?
Yeah, because I do feel like in Charlotte you can, if you look for it, it's there. It's almost like the good food,
Yeah.
If you look for a good whatever restaurant, you will find it, but you need to dig for it. So maybe it's the same thing with the music,
Right.
I just hope that people will be open as possible to want to hear experimental and things outside of the mainstream,
Yeah, well, it all can't be covers, I mean, there's a huge cover scene in Charlotte, and of course I'm part of that. But I mean, there's a push in the city to make Charlotte a more of a destination spot for live music and develop that scene. And that scene has got to be original music. It can't just be we're the cover city USA. Come to Charlotte. It's got to be. It's an original music scene, and experimental music's got to have a spot in that where people are kind of willing to come out and take a chance, on something different.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think people actually appreciate whenever they hear originals. They like the idea that they hear something that somebody actually made for the. It's just the question if they hear it enough to be able to enjoy it.
Right.
I mean, every songwriter, when it's an original, people appreciate it. I see the reaction, but hopefully there'll be a lot of open-minded and willing to experiment more than just the usual genres.
Yeah. Well, Zeno, Roni, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I appreciate you taking time in your afternoon and coming out and sitting with us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.
All right. Have a great day. And that will bring episode 23 of the Queen City Music Podcast to a close. If you are a musician or otherwise involved in the music scene here in our fair city and would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, you can find the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Play, among other places. So keep a lookout. Until next month, get out there and support your local music scene. Bye.